So this is the Caterham 620R, the most bonkers, powerful, quickest, most track-focused Caterham that they've ever made. And is this car, and dare I say it as a petrol head, is this car too powerful? Is there such a thing as a car that has too much power? So let's have a look around the car. We're going to obviously take it up the road, talk about what it's like to drive, because this car is an absolute riot, but you have to recalibrate your brain when you get behind the steering wheel of this car, because it is unbelievable. So perhaps the best place to start with this car is under the very, very lightweight bonnet. So what we basically got here is a 2-litre Ford Duratec engine with a supercharger attached to it. Now, that therefore produces some unbelievable performance figures. So this thing is producing 311 brake horsepower in a car that, with a full tank of fuel, so fully wet, only weighs 535 kilos. So you kind of do the maths. That's where the name 620R comes from. That roughly equates to 620 brake horsepower per tonne. Now, put in the comments below any cars that you can think of that have more brake horsepower per tonne than that, and the list will be very, very small. The next cool thing is this engine is coupled to a 6-speed SADEV sequential gearbox, and it's got flat shift, so I'll try and kind of demonstrate that when we're out and about. But what it basically means is, on the way up through the gears, you don't have to engage the clutch, you just keep your foot planted on the throttle and just pull the gears through, and they go through unbelievably. On the way down, you dip the clutch and you kind of heel and toe just to make that smoother transition down. I believe some racing drivers do crash on the way down as well, but that's not recommended. And then at the back there's a limited slip diff to do its best to try and get this huge amount of power onto the tarmac. Performance figures in this car are absolutely insane. So it will do 62 miles an hour in first gear, and it gets to 60 miles an hour in 2.7 seconds if you are a complete hero and a brilliant driver. But yeah, this is insane. My Caterham that I had a 1.6 Ford Sigma engine and 150 horsepower, and that was quick. So this has got more than twice the horsepower. So the question is that too much? Now, there is a school of thought that thinks that the sweet spot for a Caterham is a bit more than mine had, so not 150, but in the region of about 200 horsepower. So, you know, a good 100 horsepower less than this, and that's the Caterham 420R. 420 being 420 brake horsepower per tonne. But nevertheless, this thing is an absolute riot, but perhaps one of the most frightening cars I've ever driven, certainly the car that you need to show the most respect to, that's for sure. So if only all cars were as easy to review the inside as this one. So a couple of things. This is actually a pre-production dash. So if you were to buy a brand new 620R, you would find there'd be 3 dials along there. Instead, we've got this really funny sticker. And also you'd have a slightly different layout here. So we've got a central gauge, which is my rev counter, and then in this car the speedo is a digital speedo. If you buy one of these new now, you would have a rev counter and an odometer separately. You've got a removable Momo steering wheel, which is very useful for getting in and out. On the left hand side I've got a gear indicator, right hand side a fuel tank. This fuel gauge moves very, very quickly. So on full chat, this car will do 1 litre of fuel a minute. So you can drain the tank in under half an hour. I'm getting in the region probably about 100 miles to a tank, something like that. because you don't drive full chat all the time. And then really cool things, that is my indicators. Common, if you're ever following a Caterham and they've left the indicators on, please forgive them, because there is, when you buy one of these, they can make like a klaxon noise that goes when the indicators are going. This hasn't got it, so the amount of times I've driven off down the road and forgot to turn the indicators off, and then my high beam and low beam are just there. And then this is the gear lever for the flat shifting. It's particularly difficult to get into reverse, and this car has a racing clutch, so pulling away from a standstill is really, really difficult. You stall this car a lot and you end up looking like a complete prat a lot. You either put too much power on or not enough, so it is quite a tricky car to drive. So they do a 620S, which is the same engine, very similar horsepower. It's a little bit more heavy. This aero screen on the S is replaced by a window with windscreen wipers and full weather gear, although you can still retrofit these. You can just swap them really, really easily. The other thing the S has is a 5-speed manual gearbox, not the sequential box. So now we're in it, there's a couple of things just to have a chat about. So first things first, I'm a big, tall chap, and I just about fit in this. Now, a couple of things you can do when you spec your Caterham. First things first, you can have what's called lowered floors. So this has lowered floors. Lowers the floor by about a couple of inches, and that just gives you a bit more leg room underneath the steering wheel. What I can also do, even though my seat's fully back, the pedal box can be moved slightly as well. And I think there's probably a little bit of movement available in this to move backwards, so that's why I'm a little bit cramped. I certainly wasn't this cramped when I had my own. And then the other thing you can do is they do a wide-bodied version of a Caterham called an SV, and that gives you, I mean, this, if you've got big hips, you're not going to be able to sit in this car. I'm a pretty trim guy, and I literally just squish into this car. So the SV gives you an extra amount of width, makes it a little bit more comfy. So if you're getting the 620S, then a lot of people opt for the the wide-bodied variant because it's a little bit more comfortable. But the most important thing, if you've never driven one of these, the footwear that you choose to wear when you drive one of these is hugely important. I have to wear driving shoes. I can't wear a pair of trainers. I'll just show you the pedal box. The pedals are so close together. If you don't wear sort of narrow-toed shoes, you end up with a situation which isn't good when you come into a corner and you start pressing multiple pedals at the same time, especially if it's the brake and the accelerator at the same time. So, big feet, that's a big challenge. Long legs, it's a bit of a challenge. But once you're in and you're strapped in, it's actually a pretty comfy place to be, and it's so responsive, the steering. You get pretty good visibility from these mirrors, surprisingly. On a track day, I'd probably get rid of that. You just unscrew that, because it does block the visibility of the near side front wheel. And then you get that lovely view of the kind of frog lights over the front, which is just so brilliant about Caterham. And in terms of starting, if we do a bit of a start-up, you just turn the ignition on, and the start-up is just there. And so one of the things you do need to think about, though, is these cars take time to warm up. We're so used to modern cars, you jump in and turn them on and off you go. Not in one of these. You need to really have it ticking over for a good 5 minutes before you drive it up the road. And on a cold morning, then, it really is something that takes a bit of starting. Last thing to note is this particular car has a side exit exhaust. When I picked it up, it actually had a rear exit exhaust, so an extension piece goes from there around the back and it exits out the back and makes it much, much quieter. When the car went in to be fixed after my little breakdown, I asked them to put the side exit back on because it just sounds so much better. This thing pops and bangs and flames come out, it sounds really wicked. What's not to like about that?
About this car is you have to have all of your wits about you when you're driving it. try a 0 to 60, having already broken the drive shaft on this once. I'm going to wait for it to get going before I really give it the beans, but 3, 2, 1, go.